Okay, welcome YouTube land. Now I'm going to move on to or not animating, just using some of the drawing tools to create a simple object and store that in our library. So starting with new ActionScript 3 document, I'm going to use the circle and line tools here over the right, to create a Lego cube. So you can see here I'm getting a line and it gets all sorts of random angles. I'm going to start with a flat line. The goal of this one is to actually draw it in the isometric fashion, which means that all the lines go up, they're either vertical or they're at 30 degrees to the flat. So having a flat line like this is actually useless for us, but we need to draw it flat so that we can actually manipulate it easily. So here I'm given the little manipulation control. If I actually start with just a square and then transform that, you can see using the rotation tool I can actually rotate it. If I hold down shift, it actually gives me 45-degree switches. If I hold down control, it gives me slightly better angles, and that's about 30 degrees, and I'm just judging this by eye, but I'm going to move back to this object because the useful thing here is the radio button, which is that round circle in the center. It gives me the point of rotation. So here I can actually take this object and rotate it around that point, and if I choose to move it, even if it's outside, you can see how it will rotate around that, which is a fairly useful animation tool, but it's also useful for what we're doing here. So if I move that to the far side and then try and find the point where it'll let me rotate it, which is the circular device, and that gives me 45, that gives me 30 degrees. It'd be nice if it actually gave me a readout on the angle, but can't have everything. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw from that straight up. Now, if I wanted to make a line on an angle, I can. If I hold down shift, it locks me to the vertical or the horizontal, which is useful. Getting back to my selection tool, I'm just going to select that first line. I'm going to Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and then get it so that it locks into there. And you'll notice how the lines extend a little bit. What I can do is actually select those little bits that stick out and delete them, just tapping the delete key. And I've got one side of my little Lego piece. So if I select here and I'm going to do it flat, use the free transform tool to select that and move the radio button over. And there's a full set of instructions of this available to you on Compass. I'm just trying to talk while I find the rotation tool. Come on, I had it for a second and now it's gone. It's a really frustrating thing about this one. I can extend it, twist it, turn it. Well, I had it for a second and no. This is where it's going to get frustrating. Seems like there's a single pixel that exists that I have to then find so that I can actually draw this object the way I want. So you can see here, and the wonderful thing about Flash is it has auto locking. So these angles, so I can actually cheat, I can go copy paste, and I can try and get that so it locks to the end, and it does so beautifully automatically. Single click, I can select a piece, copy it, and then lock it to there, and there I have the basic shape of I was about to say Rubik's Cube, but it's actually a Lego piece. Now I need to draw those little bits that sit on top. This is where things get interesting, because I know it's an ellipse, and as usual the features are slightly wrong, but that's okay. I can make that hollow. I'm not going to color this as yet. I'm just going to get rid of the outside line, and there I've just got the actual circle. Now this is actually, usually in this drawing style, it's rotated about the same angle as the rest of this, so it goes up the lines there. So for this one, Again, free transform tool. I can actually just grab a corner and no, it's probably too far, about there. This is going to look completely wonky, I think. That might be good. Or I can just leave it the way it was and extend the lines down. So I'm just going to select that, copy. Now I'm going to use paste in place. This is the feature here, paste in place. Paste me a copy directly over the top. And with that I can just drag it down, place it pretty much below, and then use the line tool. So paste in place is actually Control Shift V as opposed to Control V. And I'm going to just zoom in on this singular piece here. So I've just held held space to grab the page and slide it around, and I've done Control Plus to zoom in. As you can see here, there's little bits that stick out in the wrong spot, and my line is just out of place. So I'm just going to delete these lines and try again. Starting from the outside, come down directly, holding Shift so it locks on. Even if I go too far, that is fine because it should, oops, not that one, this one. Lock it into place for you, and if I get rid of all this extra stuff, there we are, and if I get rid of that, we have what looks like a cylinder. Zoom back out, and this you can see is the top piece on your Lego. So copy, paste, and drag and place it where I need it. Sorry about that little break, I just had to pop off and deal with something. But as you can see here, single block, single little object on it, and we try and get the objects to line up appropriately. So here I'm using the little arrow keys to sort of roughly judge it by eye. And we have what looks like a approximate Lego piece. Now what you will see is that these little segments up the side here are in two completely different locations. And normally when you double click on an object, you select the entire object, and you can see I've selected the entire thing here, these little dots on it. What I need to do by holding down Shift is grab parts of this object, and this is where it'll get a little bit annoying, and hopefully I've grabbed everything, so I'll zoom in a little closer, hold down Shift again, click that little bit in there, and now I can start using the arrow keys to basically move it to get something that should look fairly similar. So I'm using this little triangular gap in there to work my placement as accurately as possible, and I can click off. Now I can delete the pieces I don't need to create the illusion of a 3D shape. And I'll grab that bit and lock that back into place so it looks appropriate. So you can see here by that little piece that jumped out, that was out of place. It was obviously part of this structure I had sitting on top, but now it's been left behind because not everything gets selected in Flash. I'm not too sure why it does this, but it's what it seems to do. So you have to be reasonably careful. And now we have what looks like a complete Lego brick. So we can then convert this into an object. So I'm going to modify, convert to a symbol. I'm going to call this brick. Seems fairly appropriate. And that's it. Done. And that's all I wanted to do with this, is build a brick and basically modify it. Now, when we look at our library, we have the brick in a library. And if I happen to go, oh, I'd like a copy of this brick, and I'd like to paste another paste. Oh, maybe it didn't. Yeah. I can then take multiple copies of this brick and place them in there. If I wish to transform them, I can shrink them down and have them different sized bricks, but they are a singular drawn object, so they're difficult to modify in that sense. And that's all I wanted to do with this introductory tutorial. My hope is that you can take it away and draw simple objects with this using the drawing tools available that you can see along the side here. Thank you very much.